S&P Global says the level of economic risk facing South African banks has decreased. The ratings agency says the local banking sector is set to expand, backed by investments in key areas. It lifted African banks' credit ratings, saying it expects the lender to register growth, particularly in retail banking. S&P forecasts ABSA recording slightly improved profitability. This is due to growing assets and lower credit provisions. While Capitec, one of the largest banks in terms of number in the country, is also strengthening in terms of profitability. The ratings agency says First Rand will not mark any sizable increase in capitalization, which it views as a negative rating factor. It says overall, the banking sector in South Africa is showing signs of resilience and growth, driven by favorable macroeconomic indicators and strategic investments. However, some banks still face challenges such as managing risk and maintaining adequate capital buffers. MTN says it will unwind and delist its empowerment share scheme, Zakhele Futhi. The broad-based black economic empowerment vehicle will distribute cash to shareholders before it delists from the JSE. The main aim of the scheme was to enable black people to participate in owning MTN Group shares while increasing black ownership in the company, as well as providing those investors with some financial benefits. When it first started, the Zakhele Futhi shares traded at around 20 Rand. This was in 2016. They're now traded around 17 Rand a share. Now, for more on the share scheme, I'm joined by Belinda Mapongwana, the chairperson of MTN Zakhele Futhi. Belinda, welcome to Newsroom. First question from me would be why this particular Zakhele Futhi scheme is being unwound and how many shareholders had subscribed?
Thank you very much, Muthiwa. The scheme is unwinding at this moment because, as you know, that it's taking advantage of the uprun in the MTN share price. You would know that if you were to track the share price of MTN over the few years, it's been quite volatile. And in order for us to give some value to shareholders, we thought, based on data and based on tracking of the performance of the MTN share price, that this would be a perfect time to ensure that the capital that was invested by shareholders when the scheme started, we lock in that value and with a bit of upside for the investors.
Now, there will be some cash distributed to those that were invested. In your previous share scheme, MTN Zakhele, there were options for cash, reinvesting in MTN Group shares. Is there the similar, options for those that are invested, that they don't only just take the cash, they can just, hold on to MTN shares?
No, I think that this is a cash only this time. So shareholders will receive at least 15% per share with approximately 5 to 7 Rand 50 at a later stage.
So if they had bought the shares at 20 Rand in 2016, that would mean 12 Rand a share, then am I correct?
Well, they will get the initial capital amount, which is 20 Rand.
Okay.
And between 20 and 22 Rand 50 per share. So, but at this point, it will be 15 Rand that is distributed, and then the between 5 and 7 Rand 50 in the near future.
Will MTN still have...
So that gives you a modest gain.
Pardon?
That gives them a bit of a modest gain
okay.
on the capital investment, yes.
Yeah, I know MTN shares had quite a weak run for some time at around 80 Rand a share, coming back now over 100 Rand a share. I guess this is the right timing to unwind this particular vehicle. But will MTN still have the appetite to have broad-based economic BEE share schemes, rather?
So, Muthiwa, this is it's a question that would best be answered by MTN. Remember, this MTN ZF is an MTN's BEE scheme. So that question would best be answered by them. But of course, remember, MTN does have to comply with its BEE requirements, as it is, a policy in South Africa to do business in South Africa. But I think MTN would answer that question best.
Do we know how many black investors were subscribed to Zakhele Futhi?
Quite a number, about 700,000 there or thereabouts, but quite a few shareholders had subscribed.
Now, the value of the scheme is over just 2 billion rand. Will that be enough to cover the disbursement of the cash for those shareholders?
Look, as I mentioned, that they will get their initial capital investment and with a bit of upside. We do have, and one of the things that has plagued the scheme over the years is the debt that we had to service as MTN ZF. So the pref share funders, also some, NVF, as well as some loans that we had. When COVID hit, MTN came to the rescue of the scheme, and I think a lot of people have forgotten that we came out of COVID and we were able to, still meet our solvency and liquidity requirements, and that was purely because of funding, some loans from MTN, which when MTN now declared dividends, we had to service. So we, over the years, had to service a lot of our debts, and in fact, now when we are unwinding, that is also something that we have to do. That does take a bit away from what shareholders would have initially wanted to have, but it is something that, obviously we had funders at the time that had committed, that loaned the shareholders some money, and MTN itself had given the shares at a discounted rate at the time, and then obviously they have to recoup the amount that had been loaned to the shareholders and to the scheme.
There was an initial extension to 2027 for Zakhele Futhi in terms of a share scheme, and now it's been wound down this year. Is there, a vision to say in the next 2 years, maybe the MTN share price won't be as strong then?
Look, I think we had to take a very, we had to look at what shareholders would have gotten if the scheme had unwound in accordance with its term. As you know, the scheme should have unwound in November 2024. But at the time when we looked as a board of MTN together, MTN ZF together with MTN, we said that it would not be prudent for us to unwind the scheme and shareholders leave with nothing, not even with the amount that they initially invested. And that was the decision that we then took to extend the scheme for another 3 years. So with MTN's blessing, we then extended the scheme because we were of the view that if we given a bit of time, it can unlock some value for the shareholders. And this decision that we are taking now is testament of that November 2024, when the scheme would have unwound, shareholders would have been left.
All right, I think we've lost Belinda there, but we were still trying to get when the unwinding will happen, possibly at the second part of this year. Belinda, I don't know if you can give us that information, if we still have you on the line. When will this particular scheme be unwound, and when can shareholders expect that money to be paid?
In the next few months, that money will be paid to shareholders, and I think we are... There's a lot of admin-related stuff that needs to happen, including regulatory matters. But we're looking at about 4 to 6 months of the unwind of the scheme.
Belinda, thank you so much for your time. Belinda Mapongwana, Chairperson of MTN Zakhele Futhi.